Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world few dare to imagine when they close their eyes. A world cloaked in stone and silence, where the wind carries whispers and the light from a single candle reveals more than shadows. Tonight you enter a medieval convent, a place where vows are sacred, rules are absolute, and yet desire finds its cracks like ivy in old stone. You think you're ready for the peace and purity behind these walls, but I promise you, you wouldn't last a single night. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And in the comments, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I always find it fascinating how one story can reach so many corners of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You hear the rain first. It's soft, steady, tapping along the slanted tiles of the convent roof. The stones beneath your feet are slick and uneven. You've walked for hours, through fog and dusk and silence, until finally, the heavy iron gate groans open. The scent hits you immediately: damp parchment, old wax, and something faintly metallic. Blood? Number probably rust. Probably. The sister who greets you doesn't smile. She doesn't ask your name. She simply gestures, and the door creaks shut behind you. That's when you realize it locked from the outside. Your cell is small. Not cozy, small. More like you might wake up with your knees in the candle holder small. The walls are bare, except for a single wooden cross and a faded embroidery that reads, "In silence, salvation." You lie on the stiff straw mattress and listen. The stone breathes differently at night. You can hear it, the weight of centuries pressing down through the rafters. The convent isn't haunted, no. Ghosts require permission to return. This place holds something older, heavier. You try to sleep. You don't. Instead, you get up, barefoot, and wander the hallway. The light is low. Your candle barely holds on. You pass closed doors, some carved with flowers, others with scratches. Scratches made by nails, not tools. One door has no handle. And then you hear it. A voice, distant, singing. Latin, maybe. But the melody is wrong. Too sweet. Too slow. It slides into your ears like melted honey and doesn't let go. You follow. Through the chapel, past a statue of St. Catherine that turns ever so slightly when you walk behind her. You don't check. You don't want to know. The voice leads you to a courtyard where mist clings to the stone like lace. A nun stands in the moonlight barefoot, singing to the well, not into it, to it. Her eyes are closed. Her lips move like they're remembering someone, not praying to him. You step closer. The well glows faintly. That's not moonlight. That's something else. The nun turns. She sees you. She does not stop singing. You back away. The stones are suddenly colder. One slips under your foot and you catch yourself on a pillar. It's warm. Too warm. As if someone was just leaning against it. You return to your cell, but it's different now. A folded piece of parchment lies on your mattress. It smells of rose oil and ash. You unfold it with shaking fingers. It's not addressed to you, but you recognize the handwriting. And the last line reads, "I will wait for you behind the choir loft when the bell tolls twice." You listen. No bells. But then again, you're new here. You don't know what time it is, or whose time it is. You lie down again, clutching the letter. Sleep finally comes, thick and uneasy. And when it does, your dreams take you back to a night like this, hundreds of years ago, when another girl stepped into this very cell. She had your hands, your eyes, and she made a promise that has not yet been kept. The convent doesn't forget. It remembers every breath, every broken vow, and tomorrow it begins again. You wake up to the sound of bells, but only one toll. It echoes like a ripple through the bones of the convent long after it stops ringing. It's not a clean sound, more like someone dropped a chalice down a hollow shaft and let it clang against centuries of memory. You blink, still holding the letter from last night, except it's not there. What's in your hand instead is a black thread, long, fine, softer than silk, but oddly damp. You sit up slowly. The window is cracked open, just enough to let in the morning fog, and the scent of something burned. You dress in silence, as you were taught, as if someone's watching. Maybe someone is. Your reflection in the tin mirror doesn't look entirely like you this morning. The eyes seem older, a little less surprised, like they've seen too much too quickly. The hallway is quieter now, but every step you take feels louder. You walk past Sister Clarentia, who offers a nod but keeps her eyes averted. She clutches a prayer book so tightly you can see her knuckles straining, and you'd bet anything that it's not scripture in her hands. Probably letters, or recipes, or warnings. You reach the main hall where morning prayers should have started already. The benches are empty. The candles have burned down to nubs. Only one person stands there, an abbess, older than dust, with lips the color of dried berries and a face like pressed linen. She speaks without turning. "You're not the first," she says, "but perhaps you'll be the last." You open your mouth to ask what she means, but she lifts a finger, and somehow that's enough to seal your silence. Later, you find the garden, if you can call it that. The plants are twisted, blooming wrong, as though they forgot what season it was. Lavender grows next to mushrooms. Thorny vines wrap around what might once have been a fig tree. There's an apple on the ground, unbitten, with a single black feather stuck to its skin. You're not alone. A nun stands across the garden beneath the twisted arbor. Her veil is lighter than the others, almost translucent. Her gaze isn't fixed on you, not exactly. It's like she's looking at something over your shoulder, or through you. But she lifts a finger slowly and points toward a crumbling wall. You follow her gesture. The wall has a small carved symbol, two interlocking circles pierced by a diagonal line. You brush your fingers over it. A pulse of warmth, like breath, flutters beneath your skin. Behind you, the nun is gone. Inside the chapel, something feels off. The air is heavier, more humid. You sit in the choir stall trying to listen, but all you can hear is your own heartbeat, and then another one, slower, heavier, coming from the seat beside you. You turn. No one. But carved into the wood is a single phrase in Latin, scratched deeply. Semper vigilat, etiam insomnis. He watches, even in dreams. You reach down and feel something tucked beneath the bench. A strand of rosary beads, but the cross is missing, replaced by a small iron key, cool to the touch, etched with a crescent moon. That night the letter returns. It lies neatly folded where your head should rest. This time the ink is fresh. The message has changed. The veil is not for your eyes. But if you see, do not speak. You don't sleep that night. Not really. You lie still, eyes open, listening. You hear the rustle of robes in the hallway, a hush of breath just beyond your door. the creak of something leaning against the other side. The key pulses in your palm. Somewhere in this convent, something waits. And tomorrow, you'll look for it. The convent never fully wakes up. You notice that on your third morning. It stretches, it stirs, but it never seems fully alert, like it exists in a twilight state, suspended between prayer and sleep, as if the entire place is under some kind of gentle enchantment or curse. You walk with purpose today. The key in your pocket feels heavier, warmer, like it's eager or hungry. You keep your hand over it, fingers curled tightly. You don't know what it opens yet, but it's clearly not meant for locks and doors alone. In the refectory, breakfast is served in silence, as always. Porridge, bread, and tea that tastes faintly of violets and iron. You watch the nuns as they eat. Some chew slowly, eyes cast downward. Others, though, seem to be playing a different game. Glances darting, fingers tapping soft patterns on the table. Morse code in medieval form. You wonder if they're praying or planning. When you return to your cell, something's changed again. The embroidery on the wall no longer reads, "In silence salvation." Instead, it reads, "She writes again." You check under your mattress. Nothing. You look behind the cross. Empty. But when you kneel to pray, mostly out of habit now, the floor beneath your knees feels hollow. You knock. Once, twice. On the third tap, a soft click, a loose tile. You pry it open with the corner of your boot and reach inside. Your fingers brush paper, dry, thin, and warm. Too warm. You pull out a letter. This one is longer than before, the ink dark and graceful, almost romantic. The signature reads simply, A. And the salutation? It begins with, "My dearest," followed by a line that makes your ears ring. "I saw you again in the garden pretending not to notice me, but I noticed everything." You blink. The garden. Yesterday. The figure under the arbor. The letter is dated 1347. You sit for a long while, reading and rereading, until you memorize every word. There's something unnerving about how familiar the tone feels. It's like someone knows your thoughts before you have them. Then the smell hits you, faint but sharp, burning. Not fire exactly, more like scorched herbs. You follow the scent to the apothecary room. Sister Ginevra is there. She doesn't speak, but nods in recognition, or warning, you can't tell which. The shelves are full of dried flowers, glass jars, and folded parchment. One jar is labeled simply, "Forget." You ask her, "What's in that one?" She smiles without teeth and replies, "You'll know if it works." You leave without touching anything. Later, during your assigned hour in the scriptorium, you find a quill already waiting for you. The parchment is new, the ink smells of roses. As you dip the pen, your hand starts moving before your mind catches up. You're not writing in English. Latin flows from your wrist like water, smooth and natural. The words feel warm as they leave you. You sign the page, Your heart hammers. That night, after prayers, you find yourself back in the chapel. Not by choice. Your feet take you there as if they're following a path written long ago. The pews are empty. The air is thick. The statue of St. Agnes is missing her eyes. The choir loft looms above, and when the bell tolls, once, twice, you climb. At the top, there's no one, just a candle, literature, and a folded letter. This one says, "I left you something." Behind the veil, you turn. There's a curtain across a narrow archway, swaying gently despite the still air. You draw it back. Behind it, a door, stone framed, no handle, but there, embedded in the center, a tiny crescent-shaped slot. You press the iron key into it, a soft click, a hush, like the convent inhaling. The door doesn't open. Not yet, but you know it will. And now you're starting to wonder, when it does, what version of yourself will be waiting on the other side? You dream of it, but not as stone. In your sleep it becomes wood, or water, or bone. Sometimes it breathes. Sometimes it sings. Once it called your name in a voice that didn't sound like yours, but remembered you anyway. The key stays with you at all times, even when you sleep. You press it against your palm until it leaves a crescent-shaped mark. Sometimes when you glance down, the mark is already there before you touch it. The convent seems to notice your distraction. The abbess lingers longer in your peripheral vision. Sister Clarentia watches you as though she's forgotten why she's afraid of you. The cook serves you a bowl of soup with a strange root floating in it, shaped exactly like a human finger. You eat around it. The weather turns. A soft mist settles over the grounds, not thick, but persistent. The courtyard no longer dries. Your robe stays damp at the hem. Everything smells like stone and lavender. Time stretches. You're not sure how many days have passed. Maybe it's still the same one, looping quietly. In the chapel, you light a candle and try to pray, but the words catch in your throat like feathers. Instead, you murmur the phrase you saw carved in the choir stall. He watches, even in dreams. It tastes like iron and honey. It echoes. That night, something new appears. Folded beneath your pillow is a page, not a letter, but a torn scrap from a ledger. It lists names, dates, and beside each, a symbol. Crescent, cross, triangle, eye. Your name is at the bottom. The symbol beside it is a flame. You find another girl watching you that morning. Young, pale. She has the look of someone halfway through becoming a ghost. Her voice is barely there. You have to write back, she says. To who? She doesn't answer. But you know. You take parchment that night and wait. The candle burns too low. The ink won't cling to the quill. You write anyway. You write as if your life depends on it. And maybe it does. You write to A. You tell them what you've seen, what you've dreamed, what you've found. You ask them what the door behind the veil leads to and why it needs your hand, your key, your name. You sign it not with your name, but with the flame. In the morning, the parchment is gone. But someone has responded. Scratched into the wooden windowsill just faintly are the words, "Be near the orchard at sundown." You don't hesitate. The orchard is still there, half dead, half wild. Apples hang low, too red, like they're hiding something inside. The wind carries the sound of a woman humming. You follow it. There, beneath the twisted apple tree, is a bundle wrapped in linen. Inside, another letter, a pressed flower, and a small bottle of pale green liquid. The letter says only, "Drink when you are ready. Then unlock what must be remembered." You turn the bottle in your hand. It smells of mint and something older, something like smoke or sea salt. You don't drink it, not yet. But you know you will, because the veil is thinning, the door is waiting, and something, or someone, on the other side is waiting for you too. You keep the bottle close, hidden beneath your robe, tucked into the inside seam with threadbare care. It feels oddly warm, like it's alive, or perhaps just long overdue. You still haven't opened it. Not yet. But it's begun to whisper. Not with words, exactly. More like suggestions, temptations, ideas that don't feel entirely yours. By now, you've memorized the sound of the convent's footsteps. how some echo longer than others, how one set drags, how another never seems to touch the ground at all. Today, your own steps feel borrowed. The orchard left a mark on you. You haven't told anyone about what you found there, about the letter, about the scent of the pressed flower, sweet but edged with something sharp, like sugar cut with lemon peel and regret. At midday, the bell tolls 3 times. A rare thing. You join the others in the chapel, where an announcement awaits. A guest is arriving. This almost never happens. He is a visiting priest from another parish, or so the abbess says. But even before he enters, the air changes. The candles flicker despite the lack of wind. The choir loft seems to hold its breath. He walks in wearing the usual black, but nothing about him is usual. His eyes scan the room not with curiosity, but recognition. And when they land on you, he blinks. Not in surprise. In confirmation. You've never met him before, have you? He bows, offers a faint, practiced smile, and then he speaks. My presence here is only for a short while, he says, but I hope, during that time, to be of service, especially to those seeking clarity. The abbess watches him with a stiff jaw. Sister Ginevra drops a vial of oil and doesn't pick it up. Clarentia stares straight ahead like her eyes are nailed to the altar. That night, you find something under your door. Not a letter, a ribbon, black, silk, still warm. It's tied in a knot you know how to untie even though you've never seen it before. You go to the apothecary. Ginevra doesn't look up when you enter. She just says, "So you saw him?" You nod. She pulls something from a shelf. A worn book, bound in leather, no title. Just a sigil on the cover. 2 interlocking circles with a flame in the center. She opens it to the middle. There's a drawing of the priest. Beneath it, in cramped Latin script. He returns when the veil thins. He chooses the flame. Ginevra touches your arm gently. Her fingers are cold. You must not drink the elixir yet, she says. Not while he's here. You ask why. She whispers, because if you do, he'll hear you. That night, sleep doesn't come easily. You light a candle and sit at the edge of your bed. The shadows are strange tonight, moving when they shouldn't, pooling in corners where light should be. You hear chanting somewhere far off, layered and low, as if the stones themselves are remembering a hymn you were never taught. Then, from under your door, a voice, software deep. You've been writing, he says. You freeze. The bottle in your pocket feels hot now. I used to write too, he continues. Letters, sermons, invitations. You don't respond. I hope, he says, you'll show me yours someday. Footsteps retreat down the hall. You stay awake until dawn, not blinking, not breathing. And when morning finally touches the window pane, the ribbon is gone. But the knot mark remains, pressed into the wood like a seal. The priest has come. The veil is thinning faster now. And the door behind it is almost ready. Ready for Section 6 when you are. Just say, continue. Ban Janoi, continue ChatGPT Janoi, absolutely. Here's the continuation of your story. Section 6. You wake not to the sound of bells, but to the pressure of eyes, not physical ones, not even human ones, but you feel it. The sense of being watched by something just outside your line of sight, as though the very air in your room has taken notice of your breath. You rise slowly, the bottle still nestled against your side like a second pulse. The mark on the wood from the priest's ribbon hasn't faded. It's darkened. Ink black now, almost seared into the grain like something branded. You dress in silence. But as you smooth the folds of your robe, your fingers brush against something sewn into the hem. Something that wasn't there before. A folded note, the paper soft as skin. He is not what he claims, but neither are you. No signature, just a single pressed petal, gray and dry, from a flower you don't recognize. At breakfast, the mood is brittle. No one speaks. Even the spoons seem to stir the bowls more quietly. The priest enters late, hands folded, eyes lowered. But you catch it, just for a second, the way his gaze flicks to the choir loft, then to you, and then back to the floor. You excuse yourself before prayers. Your stomach aches, not with illness, but with something like anticipation or grief. You don't go to your cell. Instead, you wander the east wing, the part of the convent rarely used now. The stones are darker here. The light feels old. You come across a tapestry. It hangs askew, half decayed, showing a scene from the gospel. But the figures seem wrong. One of the apostles is turned away. Another is weeping, not praising. And in the center, not Christ, but a woman with her face blurred by age. Behind the tapestry, you find a door, wood, locked, and beside it, carved into the stone in a hand that trembles with time. Those who drink may open. Those who open may not return. You don't go in, not yet. Instead, you return to the chapel, and this time, you climb the choir loft again. The candle is lit. The letter is waiting. But now, it's from someone new. Do not trust A. They are not writing to you. They are writing through you. You step back. Something rustles behind the altar. You're not alone. You move quietly, slow, barefoot on the stone. Behind the altar stands the priest, head bowed as if in prayer. But you know better. His lips are moving, yes, but he's not reciting scripture. He's whispering names, not saints, not martyrs, your name and others, names you've never heard but suddenly know. He doesn't see you, or he pretends not to. You back away, you run to the apothecary. Ginevra meets your eyes without speaking. She holds out a slip of paper. You read it. You are not remembering. You are reliving. That night, back in your room, you drink the bottle. It burns like ice. And as you fall backward onto the straw mattress, the ceiling warps. Stone turning to stars, candlelight bleeding upward like ink in water. The room breathes. You hear footsteps, but not in the hallway. Inside you. Then the whisper. Now you're ready to open the door. You wake gasping, but not from fear, from clarity. It isn't morning, not yet. But the sky through the window has begun to shift, just barely, a pale gray yawning behind the trees. You sit up too quickly and the world bends, as if the room doesn't quite recognize you anymore. Or maybe it does. Maybe it always has. The bottle is gone. Your hands still smell like mint and salt. The inside of your mouth tastes like metal coins pressed between rose petals. You look at the walls and see writing, just for a blink, just a shimmer, before it fades. Latin, names, symbols, instructions. You remember. Not everything, not yet, but enough. You're not new to this convent. Not truly. You've walked these halls before, in dreams, in memories, in lives that bled into each other like watercolor on wet parchment. This is not your first arrival. Downstairs, the chapel is empty. You go there without thinking, as if summoned. The silence is thicker than usual. Your footsteps vanish into the stone. The door behind the veil is ajar, only slightly. You approach. This time, when you touch it, It opens. No groan, no resistance, just breath. Beyond it is a narrow staircase. Down, always down. You descend. Each step echoes like it's falling through time. The air grows cooler, scented with old wax, dust, and something else. Something like lavender left to rot. At the bottom, a room, round, low ceiling, candles lit without flame. In the center, a desk. On it, ink, parchment, and a letter already begun. Not in your handwriting. Not quite. The first line reads, "You came back." You lift the quill. It moves like it remembers your grip. You write one word, unsure if it's yours or borrowed. Why? The candle nearest you flickers. A shadow falls across the parchment. You turn. Someone stands at the far end of the room. You recognize her. She is you. But not now. You. A past you. Eyes darker, older, somehow wiser and more broken at once. She says nothing. But in her hand, she holds a ribbon. Black. Silk. Knotted in the same pattern. She sets it on the desk beside you and disappears. You don't follow. You finish the letter instead. This time you write not to A, not to the priest, not to the convent. You write to yourself, the self who will come again. Because now you understand the veil isn't just between this world and the next. It's between moments, between selves, between mistakes made over and over until someone finally writes it down the right way. When you leave the chamber, the staircase is gone. You emerge into a corridor you don't recognize, but your feet do. They carry you to a room at the very edge of the convent. A window overlooks the orchard. On the sill, another letter. If you remember this, you're getting close. Do not believe everything she shows you. The signature is just a symbol. The flame. You sit by the window as the sun begins to rise. For the first time in days, or lives, it feels warm. But warmth can be a warning, too. And somewhere, far below, the priest is whispering again. You don't attend morning prayers. No one questions it. Not the abbess, not the other nuns, not even Sister Clarencia, who has begun to look at you as one might study a flame, both drawn to it and terrified of being burned. Instead, you return to the east wing, to the tapestry. It's still there, but now the blurred woman at the center has begun to sharpen. Her outline is clearer. Her eyes stare back at you, and in her hands she holds a letter, half opened. You press your fingers to the image. The cloth is warm. Behind it, the hidden door again. This time, when you knock, you hear a reply. Not words, a breath. You use the flame-marked key. It clicks. The door swings inward, revealing not stone, but candlelight. A narrow corridor lined with portraits. Nuns, dozens of them, each bearing the same eyes. Your eyes. At the end of the corridor, a wooden cradle, empty, but rocking. You step forward, and the air folds around you like velvet soaked in salt water. The scent here is strange, not unpleasant, but unnerving. Like myrrh and milk and something feral beneath it all. Above the cradle hangs a mobile, not stars or doves, but tiny scrolls, dangling on strings of red thread. You lift one, unroll it. The handwriting is yours. I left him there, behind the stone wall. He never cried, not once. The cradle creaks. You look around. The corridor is still, but the shadows seem closer, thicker, listening. You take the scroll and tuck it inside your robe. You turn to leave, but a sound stops you. Software delicate. A baby sighing in sleep. You don't run, not quite, but you don't look back either. Back in your cell, something has changed again. The embroidery now reads, "You knew this part was coming," and on your pillow lies a child's blanket. Faded pink, frayed at the edges, the kind given to infants. or buried with them. You don't touch it. Not yet. Instead, you go to the library. It's abandoned. Has been for decades, most say. But the door opens when you push, and the dust parts like a curtain. You light a candle and scan the shelves until your eyes land on a book wrapped in cloth. Inside, records, births, deaths, vows, and between the lines, gaps, whole pages missing, whole names crossed out. You find a single note scrawled in the margin of one page. The child bore no mark, but the mother dreamed of fire. You close the book, return to your cell, and the cradle is there now. Not a hallucination, not a dream, solid, old, full of whispers. Inside it, nothing. But when you place the scroll inside, the whispers cease. You sleep that night, curled beside the cradle. And in your dreams, you are not alone. A hand, warm, calloused, brushes your hair back. A voice says, "You did what you had to." And you whisper back, "Did I?" The cradle rocks gently until morning. You rise before the sun, not from a bell or footsteps or even the whisper of dreams. You rise because something inside you shifts, like a string being tugged deep in your chest, gently but persistently, as if a version of you from somewhere long ago just took a breath and needed you to do the same. The cradle is gone, not pushed aside, not hidden, simply vanished. But the faint indentation on the floor remains, as if something very old and very tired decided it had finally finished its work. The embroidery on the wall has changed again. You are close to remembering everything. But memory is not always a gift. This morning, the convent is louder. You notice it immediately. There's a strain in the air. Prayers are sharper, footsteps faster. Even the wind outside whistles like it's trying to say something you're not ready to hear. You're summoned to the abbess. The room is dark when you arrive, lit only by a window facing north, where the light never fully reaches. She's seated, still as stone, but her eyes burn. "I need to ask you something," she says without preamble. "Do you remember where you came from?" The question coils around your ribs like ivy. You answer softly, "I do now." She closes her eyes. Then she reaches beneath the folds of her robe and pulls out a journal, worn, its spine cracked, its pages brittle with time. She slides it across the table to you. You open it. It's your handwriting, but the entries date back centuries. The first page: "This is the record of what I chose to forget. May she who finds it choose differently." The abbess rises. She says, "We've always had one like you. Sometimes every generation, sometimes only once in a century, but always, always, you return. You ask, 'Who am I?' She looks away. You're the reason we buried the East Wing. She leaves you there. You spend the afternoon reading, page after page, entries about a child, about a vow broken, about a ritual meant to erase, but never truly succeed. The journal tells of the flame, of the veil, of the priest who was not a priest, and of a girl who wrote letters to herself through time to stop herself from repeating the cycle, a cycle that ends, always, in silence. Until now. At dusk, a knock at your door. Sister Clarentia. She's shaking, holding something wrapped in velvet. She says only, "You should have this." Inside the cloth, a rosary made of bone, each bead engraved with the same symbol, the flame. You ask where she found it. Her voice trembles. "It was under my bed, but it doesn't belong to me." That night, you return to the library. You bring the journal, the rosary, the ribbon, and the key. You place them on the altar in the center of the darkened room. And one by one, The candles around you ignite. No spark, no sound, just flame. The shadows stretch. A voice speaks. Not from behind you, not from within you, but from beside you. I've been waiting. You turn. The priest. But he's not wearing his collar now. He's dressed in robes older than memory, stitched with symbols you don't recognize, but instinctively understand. He reaches for the journal. May I? You hesitate, then hand it over. He flips to the last page, the one you haven't written yet. Finish it, he says, and the door will truly open. You ask, what's behind it? His smile is almost kind. That depends entirely on how you end the story. You don't write that night. You hold the quill. You stare at the page, but your hand won't move. It's not fear. Not exactly. It's something colder. Hesitation carved deep in your bones, passed down from a version of you who already tried and failed. You leave the library with the unfinished journal clutched to your chest. The candles extinguish as you pass, not from wind, but from choice, as if the room itself has decided your silence is safer. The hallway outside is different, the air heavier. You realize it's because the bells haven't rung, not once since sunset. Not for prayer, not for curfew, not at all. That's never happened before. And when you glance at the walls, the familiar tapestries are gone, replaced by blank stone, scraped clean, as though something no longer wants to be remembered. You pass Sister Ginevra. She's standing in the courtyard, barefoot, staring up at the stars. She speaks without looking at you. He's shifting. You ask who she means. She doesn't answer. You return to your room. There, waiting on your bed, is the blanket again, the one from the cradle. But now it's folded into the shape of a flame. On top, a scrap of parchment. You can still choose, but if you write the wrong ending, it becomes the beginning again. You don't sleep. You walk. The convent is almost too quiet now. The wind outside has stopped. Even the rats in the walls seem to have fled. You find yourself in the refectory, empty and moonlit. On one table, a loaf of bread, untouched. But when you break it open, a letter slips out, tucked inside like a secret only hunger could reveal. It's from A. They want you to write what they couldn't, but you don't have to. Not this time. Come to the well. Alone. You go. Of course you do. The orchard is pale silver in the moonlight, the apples duller now, as if drained. The well stands like a monument, forgotten and patient. A single candle flickers beside it. No one is there. You peer over the edge, nothing but darkness. But then, a voice from below. I'm still here. You just stopped listening. The voice is yours. You step back. The ground beneath your feet feels soft, too soft. You kneel, brush away the leaves. Beneath them, a stone slab, barely visible, etched with a single line. To remember is to resurrect. You return to the library at dawn. The journal waits. You open to the final page. The words come, slowly, hesitantly. You don't write about escape. You don't write about salvation. You write the truth, that you broke the vow, that you chose love, or something like it. And the cost was memory itself, that you've returned again and again, hoping to rewrite the ending. That maybe, this time, you can. When you finish the last sentence, the ink soaks into the page like blood, and then disappears, all of it. The book is blank, every page. You turn it over, front to back. Nothing, until you reach the very first page, where your name is written, in a hand not your own. She remembers now. And beneath it, open the door. You rise. The veil is waiting. The veil isn't in the chapel anymore. It's moved. You don't know how you know that. You just do. Like how you suddenly know the names of plants in the apothecary without ever being taught. Or how you knew to braid the ribbon in your hair this morning, even though your hands shook the entire time. You don't walk. You glide through corridors that seem to lean toward you, past doors that open just enough to whisper. You arrive at the laundry chamber, an unremarkable space, sour with damp linen and soap root. But today, it hums. A low, pulsing vibration like breath held too long. There, behind the baskets, is the veil. It's not a curtain this time, not fabric at all. It's light, hanging mid-air like mist frozen in place. You step through, and you are no longer in the convent. At least, not entirely. You are somewhere between. The walls still resemble stone, but they pulse softly, warm and veined like flesh. Candles hover without holders. The floor beneath your feet ripples as if remembering footsteps from centuries past. Ahead, the door, the real one, wrought iron, carved with the sigil of the flame. The keyhole breathes, visibly, rhythmically, like it's waiting for you to match its rhythm. You reach into your robe. The key is gone. Of course it is. Instead, you find the journal, blank still, but warm. You touch the cover to the door. It clicks. The flame sigil glows red, then gold, then white. The door opens. Inside, a circular chamber with no ceiling. Just sky. Pale gray, swirling slowly like milk in water. In the center, a pedestal. On it, a box. Wooden. Simple. Old enough that time no longer bothers to age it. You open it. Inside, resting atop folded velvet, is a scrap of cloth. Software worn. The same fabric as the blanket from the cradle. Beneath it, a ring, iron, shaped like a flame. And beneath that, a tooth. Small, human. You don't scream. You've remembered too much for that. You sit. Because suddenly your legs won't hold you. You understand now. This isn't just a place where memory lives. It's a reliquary of every version of you that tried and failed and tried again. You have left things here before and taken things you shouldn't have. The flame was never a punishment. It was a beacon to guide the next version of you back to this moment, to this box, to this choice. You hear footsteps. The priest enters. Not smiling now. Not pretending. You shouldn't have opened it, he says. You reply. You shouldn't have buried it. He steps forward. But something behind you flickers. The veil again. It hasn't closed. It's waiting. You stand. Pick up the ring. Slip it on. Pick up the cloth. Press it to your heart. Pick up the tooth. Leave it behind. You walk back to the veil. And as you pass through, the priest calls your name. Not your given one, the other, the one you haven't remembered until now. You don't turn. You simply say, "She remembers now," and step back into the world that thought it had erased you, but now must reckon with what you chose to carry through. The world on the other side of the veil feels thinner. The air presses differently against your skin. The convent still stands where you left it. The same stones, the same windows, the same distant hills. But everything has shifted half a step to the left, as if reality is holding its breath, waiting to see what you'll do next. You blink, and the veil is gone. Not closed. Gone. You walk through the halls like someone newly awakened, but the others, they don't see it. Or maybe they choose not to. The abbess meets your eyes that morning during Mass. Just for a moment. Her gaze flickers to your hand, the one now wearing the iron ring. She says nothing, but she nods, only once. Afterwards, you find the journal returned to your cell, still blank, still warm. It rests beside a fresh candle, which lights the moment you enter. No match, no spark, just presence. On the inside cover, a new inscription has appeared. What is remembered cannot be buried. What is chosen cannot be undone. You turn the pages. Words begin to appear. Not yours, not yet, but echoes. Snippets from versions of you past. I thought love would be enough. He never asked me to stay, but I did. The garden blooms even in silence. Each phrase carries weight. Not just memory, but momentum. These are voices pushing you forward. You light the candle. You begin to write again. This time, not to understand, but to tell. You begin with the door, with the veil, with the child that never cried, with the priest that watches through time, with the letter in the bread and the ribbon in your hair, and the cradle that rocks on its own. You write until your hand aches, and your fingers blacken with ink. At dusk, a knock. Sister Clarentia. She speaks quickly, quietly. They found something in the east wing. You don't ask what, you follow. The hallway is cold, dustless. It ends at a bricked wall that wasn't always there. They've chipped away part of it. Behind it, a chamber, long forgotten. On the floor, bones, human, curled around an object, a candle holder. The same design as the one in your room. You step inside. Your ring pulses. The bones are delicate, not childlike, but not aged either. A woman. She is you, or was. This is a version that didn't remember in time. You kneel, and the air shifts. Sister Clarentia shivers. You place the journal beside the bones. The ring warms. The candle in your hand flickers. You say a name. Yours. The true one. Not the one given by the convent. Not the one whispered in letters. The one written between the pages, in the places only the veil can read. The air exhales, and for the first time you hear her voice, the woman in the bones. Now we begin again, but not alone. You leave the room, not with sorrow, but with knowing, the kind that bends time, that seeps through veils, that carries memory not as a burden, but as a torch. And outside, the stars are just beginning to blink open, watching, always watching. You dream of fire, not destruction, not rage, but something older, something sacred. A slow, crackling warmth that doesn't consume but transforms. In the dream, you are standing barefoot on a cold stone floor, holding the candle from the reliquary chamber. It doesn't drip, it doesn't flicker. The flame dances in complete stillness, and around you, hundreds of women, nuns, mothers, rebels, shadows, stand shoulder to shoulder in silence, their faces all your own. When you wake, the ring is hot on your finger. The candle is burned halfway down, and on your wall, written in soot, you're almost at the center. The day unfolds like cloth soaked in ink, slow, spreading, inevitable. Everything you touch feels charged. Your prayer beads hum against your skin. The bread at breakfast tastes like memory. During chores, you return to the orchard, not to seek, to listen. The trees whisper. Leaves tremble with unsaid names. Beneath one tree, the dirt has been turned, freshly, as if something was unearthed or buried. You kneel, dig with your hands. The soil parts easily, almost eagerly. What you find is not a letter. It's a book, wrapped in oilcloth, bound in leather scarred with time. The pages are soaked, some torn, some stuck together, but legible. A diary, the same journal you left beside the bones. But this one is still being written. You flip to the last page. Words appear as you watch. She's found it. The memory she left behind. You stare. Your fingers twitch. The ring pulses again. Then, Beneath the last line, a phrase appears slowly, almost reluctantly. Do you remember his real name? Your breath catches. You do. You don't know how, but you do. Not the name he used when he arrived. Not the one the abbess whispered in fear. The true one. You mouth it. The wind in the orchard stills. The trees lean in. And from deep in the convent, farther than sound should travel, the bell tolls. Once, twice, 13 times. That's never happened before. Not in recorded memory. Not in any of the journals. But you remember now. 13 was the original number of the order, before one was erased. You return to the chapel. The priest is waiting. He stands at the altar, robes darker than night, eyes like wells dug too deep. You spoke it, he says. I felt it. You say nothing. He smiles, not in triumph, in grief. They never let me forget, he says. But you begged to. You approach. He doesn't move. Why now? You ask. He answers, because you made it to the center, and that means it's your turn. The veil begins to form again behind the altar. This time, not light, not fabric, but flame. It dances, alive without smoke. It parts like curtains at the touch of memory. And beyond it, a staircase. Down, always down. You step toward it. The priest watches you pass, and he whispers, "Remember me kindly, or not at all." You descend. The heat wraps around you like a cloak, and behind you the door seals. Not with a slam, but with a sigh. The staircase curves like a question left unanswered. Each step downward is a peeling away, not of time, but of layers you hadn't realized you were still wearing. Doubt, shame, versions of you still clinging to silence like it was safety. You pass candles that light as you approach and extinguish as you leave. The walls are carved with symbols: a flame, a circle, a cradle, a quill. Each one pulses faintly, as if responding to your presence. You reach out once and the stone beneath your fingertips feels warm. Not like sun-warmed rock, but body-warm. Breathing. You do not know how long you've been descending. There is no sense of time here. No bells, no voices, only you. And then, a door. Wood old and wet with something that smells like salt and violets. You press your palm to it. It opens without a sound. You step into a room made entirely of mirrors. But they don't reflect the present. Each mirror holds a different version of you. One, younger, frightened, clutching the journal to her chest like a shield. Another, older, her robes dark with ash, her eyes hollow but blazing. A third, bleeding, barefoot, holding a child you cannot see, and one stands motionless, staring directly at you, a version that has said nothing at all. She wears the iron ring, the same ring, and behind her eyes you recognize something terrifying. Resolve. You move past them. They do not move with you. They do not need to. They've already done their part. Beyond the mirror chamber, a hall of names. The air tastes like memory. The walls are etched with thousands of names, some scratched, some burned, some kissed into the stone. You run your fingers across them, and one of them pulses under your touch. Yours, but not the one you use now, the one you buried. You whisper it aloud, and the wall shudders. It splits open, revealing the true center. A cathedral underground, older than the convent above, carved by hands that no longer remember they existed. Statues line the nave. Not saints, not martyrs. Women, real, powerful, haunted. At the far end stands an altar. On it, a single letter, sealed in wax marked with a flame. You approach. You break the seal. Inside, just one sentence. You may finally choose what to forget. And what to become? No signature. Just your own reflection in the wax, flame-ringed, steady, waiting. You sit on the altar, not to worship, to decide. You close your eyes, and the veil descends again, this time within you. Software final, but open. When you open your eyes, the cathedral is gone. Or rather, it never was. You are back in your cell. At least that's what the room calls itself. The walls, the cot, the little window facing the orchard. Everything is in its place. And yet, nothing feels familiar. The journal is on your lap, still warm, still blank. Except now, there's a single line written in the center of the first page. You chose memory. The ring on your finger glows faintly in the dark, not with fire, but with something quieter, like the last embers of a story that refuses to burn out. Outside, the bells finally ring again, but this time they sound different. Not a warning, not a summons, a welcome. When you step into the hallway, the air greets you. Sister Clarentia passes without looking surprised. Sister Ginevra offers a small nod. Even the abbess, when you pass her office, leaves the door open. No one says a word, but everything speaks. The veil within you is still there, thinned, softened, but not gone. You feel it when your foot touches the threshold of each new room, when your fingers trail across the old stone, when the orchard wind wraps around your shoulders like a whisper. You are no longer trapped by the convent. You are now part of it. At supper, a silence falls when you sit down. Then someone, you're not sure who, places a candle before you. It's unlit. You reach for it. It catches fire without a spark. The sisters return to eating. You eat too. The bread tastes like it remembers everything you've seen. That night, the mirror in your cell shows your reflection again. But now, there's something just behind your shoulder. A shadow in the shape of flame. Not threatening, not haunting, accompanying, watching. You speak aloud to it. I know who I am now. It doesn't answer. It doesn't have to. Later, as the wind lifts the edge of your blanket, you see that the embroidery on your wall has changed again. It says, "Write it down." You pick up the quill. You write, "She remembered. She returned. And she will not forget again." When you blow out the candle, the flame lingers for one final moment, long enough to light the next page. You begin a new chapter, and this time the ink runs true. You begin to teach. Not formally, not from a pulpit or a lectern, but in quiet ways, in how you walk, in how you listen, in the stories you leave half told so that others may fill in the rest. The younger sisters gather around you now, not out of curiosity, but recognition. They know, not what you've done, not what you've remembered, but that you carry something, and they want to carry it too. One evening, while sorting dried herbs in the apothecary, Sister Ginevra speaks without looking up. "Do you think we ever really forget?" You answer, "Not when it matters." She nods. Nothing more. That night, you leave a letter beneath her pillow, not signed. Just a single line. "If you ever find the cradle, do not rock it. Listen instead." She never mentions it. But a week later, she begins humming lullabies no one remembers teaching her. The veil, though quiet, is always near. You feel it strongest in the east wing, where the mirrors used to be, where the bones were found, where the orchard leans too far toward the chapel windows. These places breathe differently now, not haunted, but held. You write every day. The journal is no longer blank. Page after page, not of confessions, but of breadcrumbs, clues, keys. You write for the ones who will come after you, the next version of yourself, the next flame bearer who might lose her way. And slowly, the journal stops being yours. One morning, you find a new entry. Not in your handwriting. I dreamt of the staircase again. This time, I wasn't alone. You smile. Somewhere, someone else has lit their candle. And in the choir loft, during evening hymns, a note drifts down from the rafters. You catch it without rising, unfold it beneath your robe. She's waking up. What do I tell her? You write back with a steady hand. Tell her to remember the orchard, the bread, the door. Tell her she's already been here, and that you're waiting. You fold the note, press it against the stone beneath your bench, and feel it slip through, as if the convent itself has decided to become the postmaster now. Later, as you walk past the laundry chamber, a breeze lifts your veil, and in that flicker of wind, you see her, the woman from the mirror, the version of you who never wrote the ending. She nods, then fades, and when you return to your cell, the embroidery on your wall reads, "She forgave us." You rest your hand against the thread. It pulses like a heartbeat. The days begin to stretch, not in length. The sun still rises and sets with its old, patient rhythm, but in depth. Each moment feels like it contains echoes, as if the walls themselves are growing thicker with memory. You hear laughter in the library where no one reads aloud. You smell violets near the well, even when it hasn't rained in weeks. One morning, Sister Clarentia brings you an object wrapped in oilcloth. I found it near the root cellar, she says carefully. I think it was meant for you. You unwrap it. A candle. White, unburned, but familiar. At its base, the wax has been molded with tiny carvings. Not just the flame sigil, but a sequence of letters. The initials match your birth name. A version of you must have left this. You hold it in your palm and feel it breathe. You ask no questions. Instead, you take it to the chapel. You place it at the foot of the altar, not as an offering, but as an anchor. That evening, you write in the journal, "She sent it back, so I would know we made it." The next day, you receive your first formal request. The abbess invites you to lead vespers. No sister has ever done this without taking final vows. But no sister has ever done what you've done. You accept. That night, your voice echoes through the chapel, slow and measured. The chant rises and falls like breath. And in the final verse, a note drifts from the rafters. You don't stop singing, you catch it anyway. They say the veil opened in the south cloister. Should I go? You don't answer in ink. You answer in song. A single word. Wait. The veil opens when it needs to, not before. After the service, the abbess approaches. She looks at your ring, now dulled with time but warm against your skin. "I know what you've become," she says. You say nothing. She smiles. "I don't envy you," she adds, and walks away. The next morning, a shadow falls across your cot. You expect another message, another dream, another item left behind. But instead, it's Sister Ginevra. Her voice is small. "I saw something in the mirror." You invite her to sit. She does. She's shaking. "It wasn't me," she says, "but it knew me." You take her hands in yours. "It's starting," you say gently. "You'll be fine." "But what if I forget?" You squeeze her fingers. "Then I'll remind you." Outside, the orchard blossoms early. The petals fall like pages. The orchard is heavy with blossoms now. Too early, too much. As if nature itself is trying to catch up with everything you've remembered. Petals drift into the convent through cracked windows and rest on ledges, in bowls of water, even in the folds of robes. No one brushes them away. It's as if the building understands. These are not interruptions. They are signs. One morning you find a petal on your journal, flat, perfectly white except for a single burn mark at the edge. The flame again. That evening, while sorting old linens in the storage wing, you find a door you don't remember. It's tucked behind a rack of winter cloaks, half covered by dust, its wood damp with age. The handle gives way easily. Inside is a room with no furniture, no window, no torch, only a table. On it, a box, iron-bound, locked. The lid carved with the image of a woman holding a candle in one hand and a bone in the other. Her face is yours. There is no key, not one you carry, not one you can find. But when you press your ring to the latch, it clicks. The lid opens. Inside, a collection. Not of relics, not of artifacts, of choices. You don't know how you know this, only that it's true. A letter you never sent, a vial of perfume you swore to forget, a lock of hair you buried once, weeping, and beneath them all, wrapped in cloth, your veil. Not the one you wear now, the original, the one you tore off the night you left the convent, lifetimes ago. You press it to your face. It smells of rosemary and fire. You return everything to the box, except the veil. You wear it again that night, and the dreams come harder, not frightening, revealing. You dream of a version of yourself standing at the convent gates, holding a newborn. The child is swaddled in red. A nun stands opposite her. You again, older, silent. The younger you offers the child forward. The older one refuses, and the gate closes. You wake with tears drying on your cheeks. The veil is gone, but in its place, a rose, fresh, full bloom, set gently in the journal's spine. You do not question it. You write, "I turned myself away once. I won't do it again." Later that day, Sister Clarentia tells you the mirror in the hallway shattered. No sound, no one near it, just cracked down the center as if a line had been drawn through time. You ask what it showed before it broke. She hesitates. "Me," she says. "But not me." You nod. Then say the only thing you can. She's waking up. Rain begins to fall. It hasn't rained in weeks. Now it falls steadily, relentlessly. Not a storm, but a cleansing. The kind of rain that soaks into stone and memory alike. The kind that pulls the scent of violets and ash from the soil and lets it breathe. You leave your journal open on your windowsill. The pages drink the damp like sacrament. You know now, someone is close. Another version of you. Not a shadow, not a ghost. Someone real. You sense her watching. Not from the mirror this time. From the orchard. From the chapel's second pew. From the corner of the laundry chamber behind the steam. One morning you find a braid of hair tied with red ribbon on your pillow. Not yours, not quite, but close enough to make your chest ache. You tuck it in your sleeve. No questions, only preparation. You begin to ready the veil again. This time, not to cross it, to guide someone else through. The first time you tried, you barely survived. The second time, you broke. The third, you left someone behind. This time, you'll stay. You leave breadcrumbs. A prayer stitched into a handkerchief. A song hummed in the wrong key. A phrase carved under the refectory bench where your name used to be hidden. When the veil sings, follow. At dusk, you light 13 candles, one for each of the forgotten. Each flickers a different color. Each burns straight, steady, unnaturally still. You stand beside them, whispering names only memory remembers. You feel her come closer. She doesn't enter the room. but the veil behind you ripples. You don't turn. You say aloud, "You can come through, if you're ready." Silence. Then, a breath. Not yours, not hers, both. Shared. When you turn, the veil is full, not open, not closed, present, waiting. You step aside. You do not guide. You do not instruct. You trust. And when she crosses through, this newest you, this oldest version, you don't embrace her. You just reach for her hand, and she takes it. Together, you sit beside the altar, and you begin to braid your hair. Together, no words. Only the quiet rhythm of remembering. Outside, the rain stops. Inside, 13 flames burn on. There are 2 of you now, not duplicates, not reflections. 2 paths folded into the same room, like pages from different books that suddenly realize they were always part of the same story. She moves differently. You notice it in the way she touches the journal, with reverence, but also reluctance. As if each word holds a weight she already knows too well. Her hands are ink-stained, her fingers calloused. She's written this before, many times. You speak her name, not yours, not hers, the one shared between you. She looks up. "Do you remember the fig tree?" she asks. You nod. "It was never really about the figs," you say. She smiles, sad, tired. "But we always made it about the figs, didn't we?" You both laugh. Quietly, briefly, the kind of laugh that shakes dust from the soul. That night, she writes for the first time since crossing. Just one line. "I came back because she wouldn't." You don't ask who she is. You don't need to. Instead, you show her the reliquary room. She walks ahead of you, her steps confident, familiar, like someone returning to the scene of a memory. She touches the pedestal, kneels before it, not in prayer, in apology. "I buried it here," she says. "The first veil, the real one." You help her dig, and there it is, wrapped in red cloth, scorched at the edges. You open it together. It's not fabric, not anymore. It's ash. You feel no grief, only understanding. Some things aren't meant to survive. Some things are meant to become part of the next version. You scatter the ash in the orchard. The trees lean in as you do. Petals fall, slow, deliberate, as if to bless. Back in your cell, she braids your hair, not as ritual, as memory. Each twist of hair is a story, a prayer, a turning. And when she finishes, she whispers, "You won't need me much longer." You turn to her. "But I just found you." She shakes her head. "Number you remembered me. That's different." In the morning, she's gone, but not lost. A single petal rests on your journal, pressed flat, rimmed in soot. You write beneath it. She stayed long enough. And as you set down the quill, the wind moves through the convent like breath. Somewhere deep inside, a veil shimmers, not calling, just acknowledging. You are no longer just the one who remembers. You are now the one who waits. It begins again, not with fire this time, nor with a veil, with a name. Spoken softly during morning prayers by a novice who isn't supposed to know it. Your name, the old one, the buried one. You look up from your place in the choir. She doesn't meet your gaze, but her fingers tremble as she grips the edge of her hymn book. Later, you find a note under your door. "I saw her in the mirror. She looks like me." You fold the paper carefully and place it between the pages of your journal. The petals you pressed are beginning to curl at the edges. Time moves differently now. Even ink behaves strangely, spreading wider, seeping deeper. Sometimes your words shift when you aren't looking. You don't stop writing. The younger sisters whisper more often now, not out of fear, out of hope. They've begun to sense the rhythm beneath the daily rituals, the silence that isn't empty, the prayers that open doors rather than close them. Some of them light candles without being told. Others pause at corners as if waiting for a veil they can't quite see. You no longer explain. You simply remain. In the orchard, the trees are bearing fruit again. Too early. You taste one. It's sweet, but tinged with salt, like a memory that hasn't finished grieving. In the apothecary, Sister Clarentia shows you a new herb sprouting in a place nothing has grown before. Its petals glow faintly in the dark. "I didn't plant it," she says. You nod. Someone did. You both understand. One night during vigil, you feel a presence behind you. Not threatening, familiar. You turn. There's no one there. But a thread of red ribbon lies across the stone floor. You pick it up, tie it around your wrist. The next day, a sister confesses to you in private, not to sin, to memory. "I remember falling," she says, "downstairs that don't exist anymore." You ask what happened next. "I woke up with dust in my teeth, and your handwriting on my arm." You show her your journal. She flips to a page she's never seen and finds the same words, "We don't fall. We return." She doesn't cry. She just breathes easier. And that night, you light a new candle. Not for her. For the version of her still trying to find the stairs. You place the candle on the windowsill, facing the orchard. Let it burn until morning. When the sun rises, the wax has formed a perfect ring. You don't break it. You just trace it with your fingertip and whisper, "Come through when you're ready. I'll be here." The convent breathes differently now. It no longer hides what it is. You feel it in the walls, the way they exhale when someone speaks a truth for the first time. In the floorboards that creak in patterns, not wear, but rhythm. In the air, which hums faintly, especially near the places where memory has thickened like honey. You have become a landmark. The sisters seek you out, sometimes for guidance, sometimes just to sit in silence beside you. One places her head on your shoulder and says nothing for an hour. Another leaves you wildflowers with thorns still attached. You keep them all. One morning, the abbess sends for you. She meets you alone in the old refectory, long since disused. "It's happening again," she says. You wait. She hands you a letter, sealed in wax, stamped with the flame. No name, no script, just pressure. You break it. Inside, a map, hand-drawn, imperfect, but unmistakably the convent, only older and larger. There are rooms you've never seen, wings that no longer exist. One marked with a circle, another with a flame. You look up. The abbess nods. "I dreamed of it," she says. "I walked those halls once," you whisper. Neither of you are surprised. That night you follow the map. The walls thicken as you go, the air heavier. You pass doors bricked over long ago. You count your steps, not by numbers, but by the names you remember. Sister Alodia, Ginevra, Clarentia, your own. Finally, a narrow passage, nearly collapsed. You squeeze through, candle first, and there it is. A room lost to time. No furniture, no icons, just a circle drawn into the floor, burned in, not painted. In the center, a quill, still wet. You kneel, pick it up. It burns in your hand, but you do not drop it. Instead, you press it to your journal. A new page begins. I am not the first. I won't be the last. But I remember now, and that is enough. When you leave, the air feels lighter, as though the convent has exhaled something it's held for centuries. You light a candle in the chapel. You speak no words. You don't need to. The flame understands. And somewhere behind the veil, a version of you finally rests. Winter comes, but the cold never quite settles in. Frost kisses the window panes but never lingers. The orchard still clings to its leaves, and the snow that falls melts before it reaches the chapel roof. Nature hesitates, unsure if it is still expected to behave the way it used to. The convent is changing, and the world around it can feel it. You wake one morning to find your journal heavier than usual, not with ink, with pages, new ones, written in a hand that isn't yours. Each entry begins the same way. To the next one. They are messages, instructions, warnings, blessings. One tells how to braid your hair before entering the veil. Another explains which herbs to use when the visions leave you fevered. A third is simply a poem. When memory is fire and the veil is thin, light the candle, breathe her in. You read them slowly, then add your own. When the door doesn't open, try knocking with your name. That day, Sister Clarentia brings you a mirror, not a relic, a gift. Simple, oval, rimmed in copper. No one asked for it, she says, but I felt like someone needed it. You hang it in your cell. At first it reflects only what it should, but at dusk, when the sky turns violet, it begins to shift. The reflection deepens, darkens, and within it, you see her. The girl who never crossed the veil, the version that stayed behind. She's not frightened, only curious. You speak to her. You've always been part of the story. Her eyes soften. She places her hand on the other side of the glass. So do you. A shimmer of warmth travels through your fingers, up your arm, across your chest. When you blink, she's gone. But the mirror hums quietly now. You begin sleeping with your journal on your chest. Every morning there are new lines, sometimes only a phrase. She remembered the figs. The tooth belonged to her twin. He never made it through. Other times, full pages. You cannot always tell who wrote them or when, but you know they are true. And when a sister knocks on your door one night, trembling, with ash on her hands and no memory of how it got there, you welcome her inside. You don't ask questions. You pour her tea. You hand her the journal, and you say, write what you can. What you can't will still find its way. She writes in silence until dawn, and as the first light touches the sill, a petal falls from nowhere onto the page. You do not brush it away. You fold the book closed and place your hand atop it. Together, you breathe. The convent exhales with you. The veil no longer waits to be found. It moves now, quietly, softly, like mist curling through familiar corridors. You feel it brush your shoulder in the chapel, slip past your ankles in the refectory, linger at your nape when you open the apothecary door. It doesn't frighten anyone anymore. It comforts. The sisters have begun calling it the hush. They say things like, the hush passed through my dream last night, or I left a letter in the hush and it answered. No one laughs, not anymore. A few of the younger sisters are writing their own journals now, stitched by hand, pages dyed with crushed berries and soot. They don't ask for your approval, they just leave them near your cot, trusting you'll add what needs to be added. And you do. Small phrases, warnings, blessings, jokes even. Never trust a candle that doesn't flicker. The fourth step always creaks louder for a reason. If the choir sings in Latin backwards, leave the room. They whisper these lines to each other like prayers. Sometimes you see a sister pause beside the old bricked-over staircase and gently knock, not expecting it to open, just letting it know she remembers. One afternoon, you find a folded cloth beneath your pillow. You recognize the weave instantly. It's yours. Woven in the early days, before the veil, before the ring. You unfold it. Inside, a single pressed fig leaf and a scrap of parchment that reads, "There is nothing unholy about wanting to return. You keep the cloth, you eat the leaf, and that night you dream of her again, the child in red, wrapped in silence. But this time, when she opens her eyes, she sees you and smiles. When you wake, you feel lighter, not empty, just placed, like a candle finally set on its altar. You rise and walk to the chapel. You light 13 candles. You sing a verse no one's taught you. And every sister joins in, even the ones who swore they didn't know the words, even the abbess from her place in the shadows, even the hush. And when the final note fades, the veil doesn't shimmer or part. It bows, as if to say, "We remember you too." You bow back and whisper, "I'll keep the fire lit, just in case." The fire is steady now, not consuming, not raging, just present. A small, constant flame, like the one you keep in your cell beside the journal, like the one behind your eyes when you dream. The sisters come to you not with questions anymore, but with offerings. A ribbon, a line of poetry, a lock of hair tied with silver thread. These are not relics. They are seeds, stories ready to bloom. You plant them carefully, in the pages of other journals, in the folds of robes, in cracks of the stone floor where you know the hush still listens. The veil feels thinner now, but not because it's breaking, because it trusts you. You've become something in between, not cloistered, not free, present. The orchard begins to turn. The blossoms fall again, slower this time, like they're reluctant to go. You catch one as it drifts past. Hold it in your palm until it fades. No ash, no stain, just warmth. That evening, you sit in the old reliquary room, the one no one else uses now, and place your journal in the center of the floor. You open to the final page. You wait, and the words arrive on their own. She came through. She remembered, and she stayed. You press your hand to the page and feel it pulse once, like a goodbye or a beginning. The next morning, you rise before the sun. No one sees you leave. You walk the halls slowly, touching stone, whispering names. Sister Elodia, Ginevra, Clarentia, the versions of you who burned, who broke, who returned. In the orchard, the trees sway as you pass. You tie your veil to the lowest branch. It flutters once, then stills. You don't look back. You don't need to. Inside, they'll continue. They'll remember. And when the veil calls again, and it will, someone will be waiting with ink and fire and a name they haven't yet spoken aloud. You breathe in. You step into the hush one last time, and it welcomes you like an old friend. Now the story begins to fade gently. Not like a flame dying, but like the warmth that lingers after it's gone. The pages of the journal slowly close themselves. The candlelight softens into gold, and the whispers behind the veil grow quieter. Not because they've stopped, but because you've started listening in your sleep. Your breathing evens out. The hush has followed you here, into this moment, into this final space between waking and rest. You've traveled far, through time, through memory, through the versions of yourself that waited in mirrors, under loaves of bread, between pages half burned, and now you've arrived. Here, still, quiet, safe. You're not alone. Not really. You never were. The ones who lit the first candles are still here, in the quiet corners of your breath, in the last flickers of this voice, in the warmth beneath your rib cage. You remember them, and they remember you. So now, just rest. Let the veil fall gently around your shoulders. Let the orchard hum a lullaby. Let the hush be your blanket. And let the story, your story, breathe on without needing to be told, just for a while. The candle is low now, its flame soft, steady. You've done enough. You can sleep. The story ends here. If you want me to share any other stories, please comment for me, thank you. Good night.